beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and I am bringing you part 2 of this gigantic declutter. Part 1 had some primers, some powders, and that video also had a lot of information about what happens to the things that I declutter and just sort of my philosophy and my thinking around decluttering items. I'm taking you through several parts of this giant tote that has just gotten way out of control. It was packed when I was moving, which was over a year ago, and then things were getting thrown on top, and it just became this undesirable, unmanageable mess. So I'm going through and I am decluttering this big, ugly tote one product category at a time. Today we're talking about concealers, and I went ahead and split my concealers up into more high-end and more drugstore. That way I can just break it down into smaller categories, and that makes it easier for me personally to work through things. Instead of looking at 40 or 50 concealers at once, I can look at 20 at once, and that's a lot easier for me. So we're starting off with the high-end concealers that I have in this big tote just floating around. And what I want to do is lay them all out, especially because there are some here where I have 2 different shades or more of the same exact formula. I'm going to swatch each and every one of these. I'm not just testing for the shade, I'm also testing for the texture, the consistency, the coverage, and some of these, quite frankly, I've had for a very, very long time, many years, much longer than I should be keeping around concealer that I actually put onto / into my skin, into my pores. So I really want to take some time and look at each one of these and ask myself, is it something I'm going to use? Is it going to work for me? Is it even safe for me to use it anymore? I don't have an exact number goal to declutter. I'd love to cut this down by about half, but I'm not going to consider it a fail if I don't get there. I really just want to get rid of the things that are not useful. I would love to be able to declutter things while they're still good so that I can actually pass them on to somebody else. As you can see, some of these things are no longer serviceable to anyone. Also, I'm going to go and put the names of these concealers up on the screen. I'm not going to say them out loud, so I apologize if you're listening to this instead of watching. But since I'm swatching everything, it's probably one of those videos that is better to watch, especially because I'm testing out the texture. So I'm not just swiping these on my arm to see the color. I'm really blending out a lot of these formulas with my fingers and letting them dry and just really trying to give each one of these the most fair shot possible. And a lot of them are just based on the color, like that Milk Makeup concealer that I just swatched. As soon as I swiped it on, I could tell it was a little bit too dark and also just not the right tone. It's a little bit too warm for me. Something that's more neutral and more brightening is more likely to be my preferred. However, these glowish concealers I just got not too long ago. I'm actually going to use all 3 of these shades again before I decide because they are so close in color. And I'm just about to the point of transitioning out of my more summer shades and into a little bit lighter and not quite as warm leaning type of shades. Although I do try to avoid warmer undertones anyway, just because they tend to make me look a little bit sallow since I am a more neutral undertone. Some of these concealers I've had and I've liked for so long that I just really needed to rip the band-aid off. Like this Naked Skin concealer from Urban Decay, I've really enjoyed this one for many years, but I've just had it for so long. They've discontinued it. It's just time to not have it in my collection anymore because I really don't want to have things just because I know I liked them once. I don't want to hang on to 2 shades of something just because I happen to spend a bunch of money buying 2 shades and they're just sitting there taking up space. So I'm really trying my best to be objective. That's why I'm swatching. It helps me a lot. Anytime I just swatch one concealer on its own, I think, oh, that's close, or I can make that work for this or that. But when I really put them all together and I see this crazy variety of shades that I have for my one lone face, and this crazy variety of textures and finishes, and a lot of these things are just not really my jam. And I don't need to keep something that I don't love and I don't want to use just because I have it, and I don't want to go through the process of swatching and deciding and sorting and cleaning things up and packing things up and getting them off to my donation destination. And I also really don't like the process of admitting to myself that I've hung on to all of these things that are totally expired. Like, did you see that Shape Tape concealer? It was so separated. It was so funky. I know I reviewed that years ago when it first came out. There's no reason for me to have it. I don't like it. I never liked it. So it's just part of the quote unquote pain of decluttering is realizing all of the gross stuff that I've been allowing to sit around my house. And I don't really like that part of the process. I don't really like showing you that or admitting that to you, but it's just the way it goes. And it's part of the discomfort of the process, and it's okay. I think most people do that. Some people are pure minimalists. That has never been me, and that's okay. And it's okay if that has never been you either. These are the concealers that I'm keeping, and they aren't all the exact same shade, and that's okay because I often use them either different times of year or for different parts of my face. Sometimes I'll combine two different concealers to get my perfect shade and perfect texture, and I often wear just concealer and no foundation, so then I'll use multiple shades on my face for those types of days. I did notice on my shelf sitting behind me that I had this still in the box ColourPop Pretty Fresh concealer. It's my most repurchased concealer. I had just received my new replacement that I'd ordered, so I'm just going to go ahead and take this out of the box while I'm cleaning and organizing and add it to my little pile of concealers. Obviously, I'm going to be keeping that one. It's my favorite concealer. It's my most used, and I have a beautiful brand new tube here. So these are the ones that are staying. I feel pretty good about the decisions that I made. I cut down a lot of my multiples, and I also got rid of some concealers that had been 4 years sitting in my beauty room that were just not healthy to be putting on my face. These are the ones that I'm getting rid of. Majority were just old and crusty. I also had these boxes sitting around for no reason, so it's good to clean out. Some of these will make their way to a new home because they're still in good shape, and I've either only swatched them or only worn them once or twice, so feeling pretty happy about that as well. Now we're going to move on to the drugstore concealers. I actually have a lot fewer of these than I thought I did. So hopefully this part will be even quicker and more painless. Also, most of these are not super duper elderly as far as concealers go, especially compared to some of the high-end ones that I've been hanging on to. So I do think I should be able to rehome any of these that I decide to declutter. And I'm going through the same process here. I'm just going to grab the ones that are all the same formula but different shades and swatch those together. Then I'll keep the best matches or the ones that are going to work the best for me long term. And that is a really easy way for me to narrow down. Then, of course, I will swatch all of these together and blend out any ones that I'm not sure about the texture and the coverage. I also just want to remind you, as I go through this process, this is not a normal makeup collection. While I encourage you to keep an eye on what you have and declutter, maybe using some of the same ideas and same principles that I'm using, I don't want you to see these big makeup collections and huge declutters and think that this is normal. The only reason why I have all of this stuff is because this is my job. Makeup, social media is my job. Now, look, I'm not here to judge you. I'm the last person to judge you if you have a lot of makeup. If that's what makes you happy and you want to play and swatch and try things and wear whatever you want and spend your money however you want, I'm the last person to tell you what to do. But I do feel like it's sort of my responsibility as I show you these big collections of makeup all together to remind you that the only reason why you see people on YouTube doing this is because it's our job to have a lot of things that we test and compare and try out and review. And it's not this like Schmiegel, my precious type of situation for me. And I don't want you to feel that way about your stuff either. I really hope that by having a lot of things that I test and review and compare and swatch and all of that good stuff and doing my favorites and that type of thing, I hope that by me making those videos, it can keep a lot of people from having this much stuff that you have to go through and sort and declutter and clean and give away and throw away. I hope that one person having this much excess can make thousands of people make better decisions for them, so that one person having 40 concealers means that 1,000 other people only have 5 that they love or whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. And I do realize that this is freakish and abnormal, and I hope that you also feel that way. But again, no judgment. This is such a complex topic. It's really hard to talk about things like money and stuff without it getting overly complicated. I don't really have anything profound to say conclusion wise. I just think that however much is right for you is great. I'm not here to judge you. I don't think you need this much stuff. I don't think I need this much stuff. And whatever works for you, for your budget, for your storage, for your face, for your life is great. And you do you, boo. That's all. That's my profound conclusion. I didn't end up getting rid of as much stuff from the drugstore section, but I also didn't have as many to begin with. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. I did end up decluttering about half of the concealers that I started out with, and that was my rough goal, and I accomplished it, and I'm feeling great about that. And I am so not ready to move on to the foundations. It's the largest category, the most difficult category for me, and I'm still going to do it. Still going to do a part 3 where I go through all my foundations, but I do feel a bit overwhelmed by all of it, and I appreciate you going through this process with me. It definitely makes it easier when I feel like I have a friend to talk to while I declutter and face my own mess of my own making. And I just appreciate you all for going on all of my many crazy rambles and journeys with me. And I love each and every one of your faces so very, very much. And I will see you in the next one real soon. Okay, thanks for hanging out. Love your face. Bye.